Vehine b'Shabbos omrim mekadesh Hashavuos. Now on Shabbos we say, He sanctifies the Shabbos. B'Yom Tov omrim mekadesh Yisrael v'azmanim. And on the holiday we say that He sanctifies Israel and the times. And like it's brought, the reason for this, in Gemara Be'ah, the Shabbos mikadsheh v'kaima mesheshis yimei the Shabbos is sanctified and constant since and all the way from the 6 days of creation. Starting from there, Mashenkin Hayom Tov al Yidei Kedushas Yisrael Niskadshu Haim. However, which is not the case with the holiday. It's through the sanctification of Israel that we sanctify it. Like it says that you call them in their times. And in Gemara Brachos, we say in explanation of that He sanctifies Israel and the times. Israel dikadshin hulizmanim. The Israel sanctifies the times. Now on Shabbos, in the prayers of Shabbos, we say that it's a remembrance for the works of creation, except for Shachris. So too, in Kiddush we say that it's a remembrance for the works of creation. And in Torah it brings that the concept of this remembrance of the works of creation is that we rest on this day, that the Holy One, blessed be He, rested after the completion of the works of creation. That is that every Shabbos is called the seventh day, just like the first Shabbos of creation. Like it says that he rested on the seventh day. That's why we say that we're a nation that sanctifies the seventh day. And at first glance, that we sanctify the seventh day is a wonder, that since the 6 days of creation have passed many myriads of days, how can we possibly say that each Shabbos is the seventh day? It's way past the seventh day. And concerning the months, it makes sense to say that Tishrei is the seventh month, because the months are counted according to the movement of the sun and the moon. That in 12 months the sun circles. So it makes sense to say that Nisan is the first month in that cycle, which is not the case in the days. There's no integral cycle built in like there is with the orbit of the sun. That for what reason should we call each first day of the week the first day until Shabbos is the seventh day of that week? What forces that idea? But nonetheless, in the entire world, that's how it's counted, from east to west. Mamar Aleph Siminun Zayin. But the concept is that Shabbos is, like it says, that He rested on the seventh day. That it's a concept of rest. And that is like a person who rests from some work that he was doing. That he rests the concept that it comes back to itself. The person comes back to himself. Because at the time of work, the person's emotions and intellect are involved with that act, and when a person stops doing that, then the person's intellect and emotions are elevated back into themselves. And that's the rest. Look what it's brought about, the idea of doing tshuva. That's also a similar idea of returning back to one's root and essential state. וכך דרך משל י' בייז ששת ימים עשה השם. So too, in 6 days Hashem did es hashamayim v'sa'aretz, the heavens and the earth, v'chol yoma v'yoma avid avidita, and each and every day he did his work, like it's brought in Zohar Emor. V'nu yom aleph nigleis midas hachesed ubarav v'as ha'or, and that is the first day is revealed the attribute of kindness, and he created with it the light, like the statement, let there be light. So too on the second day is revealed the attribute of strictness and strength. And the chachma binadas, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge of the Sfiros are enclosed in each and every one of the emotional attributes, like it's brought in Tanya in Shara Yichud, that even though there's only 6 days and 6 emotional attributes, nonetheless the Chochmah Bina Das is also there present, being revealed to create. So here you have 6 days, and each one is an emotional attribute, and that's their essential division and cycle. And this is the essential descent of the emotions and intellectual attributes, and the intellect that's included in them, that descended from the world of Atzilus to create the worlds of and that's why they're called the days of the mundane days and the days of action, even though they're emotional attributes of Atzilus. So why do we call them days of action? But it's because these attributes are descending to create the action. But it's because they descended to be clothed in the world of Asiyah. They're called the days of Maisa. Like it says over there, Zohar Emor, Rabbi Yitzchak says, that if so, why are they called 6 days, 6 mundane days? They're attributes of Atzilus. They should be called holy days, like holy attributes. Amar Rabbi Chia. So Rabbi Chia said, begin the shari lemevad behu avidata. It's because you begin to do work in them. And look in the Siddur and the gate of the holidays, that it explains that it's according to that reason we just said, that the vessels of the attributes of Atzilus descended, a tremendous descent, to be enclosed in the worlds of B'riyat Yosiyah. And on Shabbos, the emotions and the intellectual attributes are Hamilubashin Behen, and then the intellectual attributes that are enclosed in the emotions are elevated Batzmus and Batzilus back into their essence in the world of Atzilus. And that's the concept of the returning and the resting. And then it says that Elokim completed on the 7th day. Vayichal Mlashon Nichsafa, and Vayichal is also from the language of desire, Vigam Kalsa Nafshi, and also from the language of expiration of the soul. So Elokim desired the 7th day, and the soul, so to speak, was elevated and expired on the 7th day. The energy and the soul that was in creation to create it went back up, Shu Bechinas Klosa Nefesh V'Tainuk, which is the concept of expiration of the soul and pleasure. V'kach b'yom hazayin hu iskalus tainug elyon, so too on the seventh day is a revelation of the supernal pleasure. V'ayin mashakasu b'dibram maschil v'aya midei chodesh v'mashakasu b'nyin Shabbos. So it says in the midei chodesh b'chadsho midei Shabbos b'shabbato yavu kol basar leishtachavo. So it's a concept of coming each month and each week to bow down, meaning to be elevated back to the source. Mashakasu b'nyin Shabbos b'dibram maschil ichlu hayom b'dibram maschil v'yakel Moshe b'dibram maschil Shabbos osot yishmoru. V'hine b'chol ze yuvid mashal chore yesh lahafli. Now, with all this, we can explain what at first there is a wonder. Why did the creation have to take 6 days? The world could have been created with one statement. And further, that it's the truth. The world was created with one thought. But the concept is that it took 6 days' time. This was because of those who were receiving it. That they're created in a state of affinity and boundary. In order to create them in the state that they are, you had to draw them down through the 6 emotional attributes, which are these 6 days. And this is the explanation of the pasuk that his thighs are pillars of marble. Of Pashas Kedoshim, of Pasha Kafei, Pashas Bamidbar, Pasha Yud, Shukav Zeha Olam, that his thighs, that's the world. Amudeshesh, Shenivra Sheshis Yamim. So Shukav is that he desired it, the world that he desired, Miloshin Shuka. And the pillars of Shesh are from the language of 6. That the world was created in 6 days. Shesh and that is that it receives through the 6 attributes. Veshukav Heim Netzach v'Hod, and the thighs are Netzach and Hod. That in the Netzach and Hod are drawn the other emotional attributes. Because Netzach comes from Chesed and Hod from Gvura and so forth, and expressed downwards. 3 So an explanation of this matter, that it's known that time is a created entity. And he may be blessed as much higher than the boundary of time. Vehaya, and this is the concept of the name of Vehaya that hints to this. That he's higher than time. That he's past, present, and future in one moment. That the name Yud Kei Vav Kei is a combination of these states altogether, all these tenses. Sof Mabit Sof Kol Adoros Beskira Achas, and gazes and views all the generations in one glance. Ukadei Lihiyos Yisavus Hazman, and in order to create the concept of time, it's through first dividing the life force into 6 attributes, that they're called the 6 days of creation. That each one of these days includes in it 1,000 years. Like the pasuk in Tehillim, that 1,000 years in your eyes is like one day. And afterwards it is divided from this to each year general life force as well. And that's the concept of Rosh Hashanah. And then it's divided into 12 months. Each Rosh Chodesh is drawn down a general life force for that month. Therefore, that's why it says, the pasuk says that it will be in each month in its renewal, in its month. So it's found then that these 6 days These six attributes are the beginning and the source, the root for, they're the beginning and source for the creation of time. That the six midos are the source for the 1,000 years, and then the 1,000 years divides further into further detail. And in another place it explains the Medrash Rabbah that there was an order of time before the actual creation of time. There was Seder Zmanim, still some kind of order of time. Kivav Ksavus Hanal Nekta Seder Zmanim, that these six attributes, these six sides, correspond with an order of time even before the creation of time. Lefish Inan Zman Mamash, because they're not actual time, rather they're six divine attributes. She'inan Zman Mamash Kamo Bibiyah, that they're not actual time, like in the worlds of Bria Tzir Asiyah, Elashim Seder Makom Li Sabbath Zman, but rather they're an order and a place for the creation of time. Vayin Bilakuti Torah Parshas Breshis, B'Taimi Mitzvos Gabi Mitzvos Aseh Shazman Graman. Look what's brought in the Kuti Torah. Of the Arizal, the reasons for the mitzvos, concerning the mitzvahs that are dependent upon time, and that from the parts of Favzah, from the, so to speak, chest and below, that's what's called time, from Tiferes, from half of Tiferes down. That's the beginning of parts of Nukva. We can say excuse me. However, in the Ramaz, in his Perush on Zohar Kisisa, he explains Perush the Shorish Seder Zmanim hu b'zayin tachtonos ta'atika in Sham. He explains it even higher, that the root of the order of times comes from the 7 lower attributes of Atik Yomin, of parts of Atik. And Sham, look over there. We must say that that's the concept of early days, of the ancient days, the days of yore, the days of old, meaning to say that it's not like the days of Zah, but it's a higher shorish of Zman, the old days. And this could be the Rabba Daf Kuf Lamadalad Shim Hiyos Shim Hiyos and Nikra Yemek, that even though they're called the days of Yor, Hainu Kodim Latzilus, that is to say, before the emanation of the world of Atzilus, like the statement that there was a order of times before that, before the emanation even. And this is the difference between when it says the Ancient of Days and when it just says Atik. Because when it says Atik Yomin, it's referring to the 7 lower levels of Atik, the 7 days of Atik, so to speak. Therefore, it's a source for the order of time, according to the Ramaz, is Perush and Kisisa. But when it just says Atik, that refers to the first 3 levels of Atik. And in Ruach David it says that I saw that it says that's perhaps when it's called Atik Stima, Etika Stima, so that's referring to the higher levels of Atik. And perhaps there's other expressions as well. However, the Alter Rebbe, so his explanation on the days of Yor, that refers to a level that's beyond the order of creation completely, even higher than the Gimel Rishonos Adik, beyond the Tzimtzum Rishon, like the concept of that he exalted from the days of the world, meaning all the days within the process of creation. He's exalted from them. That's what's called Yemei Kedem Teperish Misnasem Uvdol Mimos Olam Chulu V'Tzarchion. That he's exalted completely from the days of the world, the entire process of creation, and he's looking into. And according to the Ramaz, it also makes sense that it says that Ak is called the first thought, that there is included the entire order of time in one glance. And the order of times is below Ak. The Malchus de Ak, that is the 7 lower levels of Malchus of Ak, which is also the 7 lower levels of Atik Yomin. So the world of Ak then is higher than that. The Machshava of Ak, Machshava Keduma, is all the entire order of times in one glance, whereas the Seder Zmanim, the order of times, not just one glance, is the Zayin Tachtonos of Malchus of Ak, or Zayin Tachtonos to Atik. Omnam Gam Ak Nikra Adam de Bria. However, the world of Adam Kadmon is still called the level of Adam of the world of Bria, and in the Klolos, meaning in general, as you divide the worlds into more general concepts. So Ak is like the world of Bria to the general concept of creation, whereas Atzilus is beyond the Tzimtzum. Because above Ak, you can't say that's included until the end of generations. In one glance. Because beyond Ak, it's not in the boundary of worlds at all. Only in Ak, you can say that. Like the statement of the Zohar and Truma, that the Holy One, blessed be He, glanced at the Torah and created the world. Al kol panim, Torah. But at any rate, according to what's brought in Likutei Torah, Shemikura say there's money bevav tzavos te'atzilus, that this in the order of times is in the 6 attributes of Atzilus. Alkein lefiza yuvan mashahaya meshech habriya shisha yamim. At any rate, we can understand that that's why the process of creation took 6 days. Shukidei lios hazman, that in order to have the time, tzarich lios hamshachal devav tzavos hanal, you have to draw down to these 6 sides. These 6 attributes, and automatically then you have to have 6 days. That each day is one, each attribute is 1 day. And from this also is drawn the creation of space, of place. That the concept of dimensions of space is above and below, and east and west, tzafon v'darom, north and south, sheshorsh and gamkein mishisha midos hanal, that the 3 dimensions of these 6 directions is also drawn from these 6 attributes. And like it says, that just like you can't have a world without direction, so you can't have the world without Shabbos and so forth. The Shabbos is the 6 days and 7th day, and meaning the directions of the 6 attributes. And it all comes to one idea, to the one who contemplates on this. Now on Shabbos, when his elevate the emotional attributes and the Chachmamina das included in them, l'shoshen ba'atzilus, back to their source in atzilus, u'bechinas aliyah, mebechinas zman, mebechinas shalom ma'ila mehazman. It's a concept of elevation of time to that which is beyond time. Ki agam shavav ksavos te'atzilus nekregam, ken seder zmanim. Because even though the 6 attributes of atzilus are also called the order of time, so we're going back to atzilus, so we're going back to the order of time. Ach be'emes Shabbos u'bechinas mochin da'aba. But the truth is that Shabbos is even beyond the Seder Zmanim. It's a concept of the intellectual attribute. It's the mochin of Abav Chachma Ilah. It's a concept that's beyond time completely. And therefore, from chesed, from kindness of Zeranpin and below, that's called the days of building. That the world is created with kindness. Which is not the case with the first three attributes of Atzilus, the intellectual attributes. They're beyond. They're beyond the concept of the world. And higher than time. Look what's brought in Pietz Chaim about the holidays concerning the spheros of the building, which are the seven lower levels, seven lower spheros. And look what's brought in the Ramak in Ohr Nerav, his sefer on the My Love Limud Pnimius HaTorah. This that he describes the difference between the seven lower levels, which are the attributes that are emanated to conduct the lower worlds. That the intellect of wisdom and understanding are essential attributes on their own. You're not needed to conduct the lower worlds. And that's why it says, the pasuk says, send away the mother, which is Bina, that it's not fitting to make chakiras in those levels, because you send the mother away, meaning that they're beyond the world, essentially beyond time and space. Vesabanim, and the children, shein zayin tachtonos tikach lach, which are the seven lower attributes. That's what you should take, lachkor v'ledrosh behem, to scrutinize and be choked in them, because that's what's shaykh to the world. Like it says, when you ask for the previous days, what happened, that refers to trying to figure out, understand the seven lower attributes. And that's why, and this is that each Shabbos is called the seventh day, and it's a remembrance to the works of creation. Even though has passed many myriads of days. But each Shabbos then is a reoccurring theme of these attributes. But rather, it's because every Shabbos it goes back to its source. It's an elevation back to the beyond time. So since you go back to a state of beyond time and space, when you start counting again, you start fresh from the first day. So this state of beyond time is called the seventh day. That seventh day is the three first levels beyond the spheros of the building of creation, like the concept of the seventh palace in davening, Shu Kodesh Kadashim, the Shemona Esrei, which is the Holy of Holies, Kol Gimel Rishonos, that includes in it the three first levels of Chochmah Bina Das, Parshas B'Shalach, Samach Gimel Beis Peches Aleph, Ubiyom Aleph, Matzchil Iskalus Midar Rishonim, Esfiras HaBinyan, and on the first day of the week begins again revelation of the first attribute from the spheros of the building of the creation, Shemekor Bechinas Manchulu, which is the order of the source for the order for the concept of time. And the concept of this elevation of time into beyond time, it seems to me, like the concept of the inclusion of Shem Adnai into Shem Havaya, Mevor Betanya Chelik Beis Perek Zayin, that the concept of Shem Adonai is the shorosh of time and space, and it's included into Vehaya, like we said, is beyond time. So it's when you have the shiluv of the two names, it's time going back into its source. A yichud of Shema Yisrael as well. But this elevation is only in the inner concept of the worlds, which is not the case with the external concept of the worlds. That's more of an elevation of Rosh Hashanah l'chora. But nonetheless, even the external concept of the worlds receive their life force from that high supernal thought that's beyond the concept of speech. So even if they don't get it directly, when the internal concept of an internal life force of the worlds is elevated, it affects the life force for the lower external concept of the worlds as well, to the speech. That the time is taken from the concept of speech. So when thought affects speech, the speech is changed as well. That from the 6 days of creation are drawn the 10 sayings, the 10 statements of creation, which is not the case with thought. With one thought, the worlds were created. The difference between the effect of elevation of the inner concept of the worlds and the external concept, and how they affect each other. And from there, from that one thought, that's where the worlds receive their life force on Shabbos. Ohr Hatorah Perush. And in Ohr Hatorah, from the Magid, it explains that this is the concept of Shabbos has come, and Shabbos came, and resting came. That the resting is this, that the worlds will receive a life force from their source as it came up into thought. So that it's, instead of getting the life force from the attributes, the emotional attributes, they're getting their Shabbos from this concept of thought. So it comes menucha, meaning the hamshacha is from that level. L'chein lo nizkar Shem Vehaya kol shesh yimei bereishis ad achar shenemar b'yom haShabbos Therefore, the name of Vehaya is not mentioned all the 6 days of creation until it says on the day that Hashem made Eretz v'Shamayim. And in the 6 days of creation, it only mentions the name of Elokim alone, because their concept of descent, to being clothed in time, and that's through a concept of confinement and strength from the concept of the name of Elokim. Which is not the case with the name of Vehaya, which is past, present, and future. Meaning higher than time. But on Shabbos, then you have an elevation from time to beyond time, Vehaya, which is the name of Vehaya. That's why it says afterwards the name of Vehaya, Elokim, including the name of Vehaya, because the Elokim and the Tzimtzum of time went upwards back into the Shem Vehaya, including the concept beyond time, into creation. And that's why Shabbos is essentially holy always. Based in doesn't need the based in to sanctify it, because but it's rather it's a holiness that comes on its own, because Hashem rested, meaning that if it's beyond time, you don't have to sanctify it. It's in a present, it's in a state there always and never ever changes. that it exists essentially beyond the time and space. It's not a moed, which the moed is a concept of time. And that's how it was set up, the order of creation, to have first a descent and to draw down through the 6 attributes, and at the end of the 6th attribute, when you have a glimmer of the 7th attribute, Shuha Malchus, which is the concept of kingship, Yehi Ohr, let there be light. So it's going to go back, I guess, to the beginning. It's tied into the beginning of let there be light. So Yehi Ohr, Vaya Ohr. So you have these 2 concepts of light. So perhaps one of them is a concept that's higher than the 6 attributes. It's the light in the attributes. But he doesn't explain why Malchus is Yehi Ohr. So at any rate, it's an elevation and returning from below to above. Ad Yom Shvi'ah Shmilamata Lamaila, to the 7th day, that from below to above, that Shuhu B'chinas Heichal Kodesh Kadashim, which is the concept of the palace of the Holy of Holies, that each one of the emotional attributes corresponds to the concept of the palaces, the Heichalos, Livnas Sapir, as Yisod, and Etzem HaShamayim, and so forth, Heichal and until you get to Heichal Ratzon, and then Heichal Kodesh Kodashim, and so forth. V'shmona Esrei. So that's from below to above the emotional attributes until Kodesh HaKodashim, which is Chabad. That's the Yom HaShviyah, the 7th day, from below to above. Heichal Kodesh Kodashim, that's Yilus al derech hanizker b'parshas Pekudei daf reish samach suf amud beis l'kasher shviyah b'shviyah, to connect the 7th to the 7th. The lashon in parshas Pekudei. V'ayin b'peit Chaim shar aleph perek zayin gabe v'hine ein koach b'zeh rak b'zeh bilvad chulu. Look what's brought in Peit Chaim, how that Zah is the only one that has this ability, this strength, and so forth. But on the 7th, on the day of Shabbos, which corresponds with Malchus and so forth, look over there. That also talks about this idea of Malchus, and as it's the connected to the above the attributes. Look what's brought in Zohar Korach about at the time when the day comes to be sanctified. Look what's brought in the Biur Zohar and Parshas Korach about this idea. And look in the Idros Nasa. Ketzer Inyan Shishavas Shishabas Nikra Yom HaShvi. The concept that Shabbos is called the 7th day, Kinyan Shabbos V'nach, because the Shabbos is that he rested and returned. Shebesheshis Yimei Bereshis Yeridus Hashseichel V'amidos, that in the 6 days of creation you have the descent of intellect and emotions, B'dibor into speech, B'Shabbos Olin B'Mekoran B'Chabad, and on Shabbos it goes back to the source into Chochma Bina Das, U'lechein Ishtaheh HaBriya Shisha Yamim Mitzar Mekablim. And therefore, the creation took 6 days, even though it could have been instantaneous, but it took 6 days in order to accommodate the receivers, the creations, in order to have the order of times, that the 6 emotional attributes of Atzilus themselves are not in time, but they're called the order of time, the preparation of time. And according to the Ramaz's Perush in the Zohar, that's the 7 lower attributes of Atik, the Seder Zmanim. But at any rate, the 6th, the first 3 levels, the first 3 Sfiros attributes of Chabad are higher than the concept of time. And therefore on Shabbos, when the emotional attributes in speech go back up to their source, therefore it's beyond time, and it's called the seventh day, the seventh palace, from below to above, the Holy of Holies, beyond the emotional attributes. And therefore the day after that, after Shabbos, is called the first day, because it went back up to its source and came back down. The Shabbos Mekadsheh Vehaya, and that's how Shabbos is sanctified and established